This is the story of an 8th wedding anniversary that was meant to celebrate a global triumph, but instead exposed a staggering level of psychological and commercial desperation. In less than 24 hours, what looked like a small, nostalgic public moment on social media morphed into a devastating metaphor for a shattered empire. Meghan Markle, in a move that felt less like a celebration and more like a forensic erasure, released a trove of unseen photos from her royal wedding. Yet the images contained a chilling editorial choice. Every single member of the British royal family, the very institution that paid millions for the spectacle and handed her a platform of unimaginable power, was meticulously cropped out or omitted, save for a single blurry shot of the back of King Charles. It was a digital decapitation, a petty surgical strike designed to say that she is the main character. But instead of asserting dominance, it exposed a staggering vulnerability. In this video, we are going to unpack exactly what happened over a frantic few days that laid bare the fragile reality of the Sussex brand. We will explore the subtle, devastating signals behind their sudden pivot to reality television-style public displays of affection, the psychological warfare waged against the Princess of Wales, and the terrifying financial cliff edge that has forced them into what industry insiders are now calling a high-end gig economy. By the end, you will understand why this isn't just about a petty social media post, but a deeply calculated yet fundamentally flawed struggle for relevance as the walls close in. To understand the gravity of this collapse, we must first return to the pinnacle of their power. Cast your mind back to May at St. George's Chapel. This was the golden era. Meghan Markle walked down the aisle into an unprecedented modern fairy tale. Backed by the sprawling, centuries-old machinery of the British monarchy, it was a flawless, sun-drenched day paid for by the British taxpayer, watched by billions. At that moment, she had completely rewritten the rules. She brought in her own choir, her own preacher, and she proved she could bend a 1,000-year-old institution to her will. It was without a doubt the greatest day of her life. Little did she know that was the very last time the monarchy would bend for her. They had the world at their feet. They were handed global influence, goodwill, and the financial backing of an empire. They were supposed to be the new global billionaires of compassion, launching a rival court in California that would eclipse Buckingham Palace. But the devastating contrast of Schadenfreude lies in where they are today. The grand, sweeping promises of reshaping the world have dissolved into a bitter, isolated reality. Today, the billion-dollar Spotify deals are dead. The Netflix pipeline is running dry, forcing them to self-fund their own development projects while begging streaming executives for a second glance. The humanitarian crusades have been replaced by the hawking of homemade jam dog biscuits and hastily arranged photo ops. The prestige is gone, replaced by a glaring, suffocating commercial desperation. They have entered the high-end gig economy, bouncing from one public relations stunt to the next, desperately searching for a paycheck to fund a lifestyle they can no longer afford. The descent began on what should have been a joyous occasion. On the morning of their 8th anniversary, the Sussex camp released the curated wedding album. The exclusion of the royal family was not an oversight. It was a weaponized omission. It is a psychological phenomenon known as unpersoning, attempting to rewrite history by deleting the very people who provided the stage. She attempted to censor the indisputable fact that without the platform they provided, no one would care about her lifestyle brand or her overpriced aesthetic, but that was only the beginning. Just hours later, the mask slipped entirely. They thrust a bizarre, hyper-intimate video onto Instagram. The scene was perfectly staged in their Montecito mansion. Prince Harry walking in with Meghan's favorite lemon posset cake candles burning, children supposedly cheering in the background about a penguin gift. Harry tells the kids they dressed as penguins years ago, and Meghan chimes in, insisting that penguins mate for life and we will be together for life. The kids scream in the background. It was a scene ripped straight from the playbook of an early 2000s reality television show. The public reaction was instantaneous and it was visceral. The video did not project a couple secure in their bond. It projected chaotic defensive energy. When a couple feels the overwhelming need to shove this kind of aggressively curated public display of affection down the throats of the internet, they are usually hiding something deeply fractured. The mask sometimes slips. It is the loudest people in the room who are often the most terrified. This was not about sharing love, it was about proving a point. It was a heavy-handed, almost obnoxious counter-narrative to the persistent, deafening rumors in California that they are increasingly living separate lives. When Meghan Markle, a woman who previously described her time in the royal family as the worst 7 years of her life, suddenly needs to broadcast her domestic bliss. The silence beneath the noise is deafening. It felt fake, it felt forced, and above all, it felt desperate. What precipitated this sudden manic need for public validation? To find the answer, we have to look across the Atlantic to a subtle but devastating shift in power. Just days prior, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, had returned to international royal duties with a solo tour in Italy. The contrast was lethal. Catherine did not require a motorcade of dark SUVs, an entourage of aggressive security guards shouting into earpieces, or a hired crowd of screaming fans to look important. She arrived quietly, stepping out of a single car, engaging with the public with an effortless, radiant naturalness. It was a masterclass in soft power. She possesses the one currency Meghan has never been able to manufacture, which is authentic, unforced charm. The secret to this kind of power is naturalness. Meghan, on the other hand, requires a stage-managed display. The success of Catherine's tour sent shockwaves through the Sussex camp. The response was immediate, predictable, and remarkably transparent. Within days, a sudden, seemingly uncoordinated trip was announced. Meghan Markle materialized in Switzerland. The timing was not a coincidence. It was a tit-for-tat retaliation. She needed to prove she cared about the global stage too. She arrived to unveil a memorial paying tribute to children who had lost their lives due to online bullying. On paper, it is an unimpeachable cause, but the ethical collapse was hidden in the details. Hours before standing at a podium to mourn the devastating effects of social media on youth, Meghan had posted a highly curated, materialistic photograph of herself in her luxurious closet, deliberately featuring the back of her young daughter's head. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. She was feeding the very beast she claimed to be fighting. She was weaponizing the grief of shattered families to elevate her own public relations profile, a vile repetition of past trips where she centered herself in other people's tragedies. Furthermore, the speech itself quickly became shrouded in a dark, humiliating controversy. Observers and journalists noted terrifying similarities between Meghan's supposedly heartfelt words on the intersection of artificial intelligence and early childhood development, and an essay recently published in the Chicago Tribune by Dr. Donna Suskin, The Whispers of Plagiarism, of Lifting a Respected Doctor's Intellectual Property to Feign Intellectual Depth, began to circulate wildly, alongside brutal reports from online outlets claiming the entire speech was generated by artificial intelligence. It painted a picture of a machine so devoid of original thought that it resorts to hopping onto whatever hashtag is trending, pretending to change the world while actually doing the square root of zero to help real victims. They just want the photo up, they just want to look good. But the facade is cracking, not just for Meghan, but for the man standing rigidly beside her. Prince Harry, once the beloved cheeky rogue of the British monarchy, is now facing a catastrophic collapse of his own residual authority. The Invictus Games, his crowning achievement and the last bastion of his public respectability, is reportedly bleeding. Major donors are quietly bailing, key leadership is walking away in frustration, and the very veterans he claims to champion are beginning to openly say they do not trust his leadership. He is viewed as entitled, weak, and out of his depth. But the most devastating blow isn't financial, it is psychological. In the quiet, privileged drawing rooms of London, a brutal comparison is no longer just a whisper. Those who served with Harry in Afghanistan and those who have watched his petulant, entitled behavior over the past 8 years have come to a chilling consensus. The man who demands security he won't pay for, who lectures the world on empathy while icing out his dying father, and who believes his royal birthright exempts him from basic human decency, is turning into the one thing the royal family fears most. Prince Harry is becoming a younger version of his disgraced uncle Prince Andrew, a pompous, entitled figure completely detached from reality, demanding respect he has not earned, and throwing tantrums when the world refuses to bow. He is a man who does not understand money because he grew up in palaces where it simply existed, now trapped in a marriage fueled by a desperate need for financial security, and as the financial walls close in, as streaming giants demand they pay for their own writers, and as the reality of their self-imposed exile truly takes hold, the question is no longer if this fragile empire will break. The question is exactly how brutal the fallout will be when they finally realize there is no one left to blame but themselves. When a couple builds an entire global brand on being the victims of a suffocating institution, what happens when that institution simply stops engaging? The answer is a terrifying, deafening silence. The British royal family has deployed the most devastating public relations strategy imaginable against Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. It is a forensic, disciplined silence. The monarchy is not fighting back. They are simply moving on. And for a brand built entirely on retaliation grievance, and the weaponization of victimhood being ignored, is the ultimate death knell. This absolute freeze from London has created a profound psychological rift inside the Montecito estate. The realization that they are no longer the main characters in the royal narrative has fundamentally shifted the power dynamic in their marriage. Reports of them living increasingly separate professional lives are no longer just tabloid fodder. They are the logical conclusion of a business model that has utterly failed. Meghan is attempting to rebrand as a solo lifestyle mogul, a CEO of her own aesthetic, while Harry is left drifting a displaced prince clinging to the fading relevance of his military past. They are trapped in an echo chamber of their own making, increasingly desperate for the one thing they threw away, which is institutional protection. The reality of their financial situation adds a morbid layer of tension to this isolation. We must look at the cold, hard facts of the California gig economy they have cornered themselves into. This is not the life of generational wealth. This is the life of bouncing from paycheck to paycheck, throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. They are pitching podcasts that never materialize, announcing production deals that quietly evaporate, and attaching their names to trending hashtags in a frantic bid to stay relevant. Notice the pattern of behavior. Industry insiders call it the quitter matrix. They quit the royal family when they were not handed absolute control. They quit their own online bullying charity right around Christmas, quietly handing the operational burden off to another entity because they wanted the photo opportunity, not the paperwork. They bought the rights to a popular romance novel only to abandon the project. Now they are reportedly trying to buy the rights to a film about Afghanistan. They are professional quitters. They lack the institutional discipline to build anything sustainable. Netflix and Spotify executives have realized what the palace knew years ago. The Sussexes demand the budget of a blockbuster, but they deliver the work ethic of a vanity project. This lack of stability breeds a unique kind of internal paranoia, particularly when looking back across the Atlantic. King Charles is battling a serious illness. For most families, this would be a moment of profound, unifying grief. But in the transactional world, Harry and Meghan have built inheritance, and legacy are always in the air. There is a ticking clock if the ultimate financial safety net of the monarchy is suddenly restructured. Where does that leave a prince who has never had to worry about money, and a woman who is acutely aware that her market value is entirely dependent on his last name? The anxiety of the unknown is palpable. To understand how spectacularly they have mismanaged their royal proximity, we only need to look at the subtle masterclass execution of Zara Tindall. Zara, the king's niece, has successfully commercialized her royal adjacent status without ever sacrificing her dignity. She aligns herself with high-end equestrian brands, luxury fashion, and heritage companies. She respects the unspoken rules of the monarchy, and in return, she enjoys a lucrative, unbothered life of wealth and respect. She maintains the royal mystique. Meghan Markle, conversely, is out here hawking dog biscuits and fighting for engagement on Instagram, posting bizarrely staged anniversary videos that reek of insecurity. She has dragged the Sussex brand into the commercial toilet. It is a staggering downgrade. When you strip away the titles, the security details, and the curated lighting, you are left with a fundamental lack of class. Dignity is not something you can buy with a Netflix contract. This is why the story resonates so deeply with viewers around the world. It is no longer just a story about a royal feud. It is a live-action psychological study of narcissism and the collapse of the ego. We are watching what happens when someone overestimates their own brilliance and underestimates the machinery that made them famous. Meghan genuinely believed that the Golden Day at St. George's Chapel was the beginning of her rewriting global history. She manipulated the optics, cut out Queen Elizabeth's influence where she could, and thought she had won. But she failed to realize that the royal family is not a pliable Hollywood production company. They are a 1,000-year-old institution. You do not tell them how the show is run. When they gently put her in her place, she fled, opting to be a big fish in a commercially desperate pond, rather than a team player in the most famous family on Earth. So what happens next? The subtle shifts in their public behavior point to a dark horizon. Astrologers and psychics, whom Meghan reportedly relies on heavily for guidance, have pointed to a period of extreme emotional tension and public mistakes for the couple in the coming months. But you do not need a tarot card to see the writing on the wall. The pressure of maintaining a facade of infinite wealth and perfect love, while the industry turns its back on you, is unsustainable. Many observers are looking closely at the impending 10-year mark of their marriage. Under California law, crossing the decade threshold significantly alters the financial landscape in the event of a divorce, while the mask occasionally slips with aggressive social media posts and bizarre public stunts. Meghan is a master of survival. The prevailing theory among public relations analysts is not that the marriage will end tomorrow. It is that Meghan will not walk away until she is absolutely certain her individual brand is stronger than the Sussex title, or until a more powerful, financially secure anchor presents itself. Until then, they will remain locked in this strange, codependent dance. They will continue to launch hollow initiatives, they will continue to stage paparazzi shots in parking lots, and they will continue to try and convince the world that they are thriving, but the public sees the truth. The world watched them burn down a paradise only to build a prison of their own making. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the psychology of modern public relations. If you appreciate this level of forensic analysis, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the Sussex brand can ever recover, or is this the final chapter? I will see you in the next video.